Good morning. Thank you for attending our May English Appreciation Service. As I mentioned last week, my daughter, Nanami, was celebrated her first birthday on May 9. I strongly feel that we have been able to raise our children thanks to the many blessings we have received from God, ancestors, and all of you here today. I really appreciate your support. Before Nanami was born, when Yuko was pregnant, I remember a conversation I had with Patrick Young of the Tsujimura family. While we were standing in front of his car, a Toyota Highlander, he asked me, "You are driving a RAV4. I am sure you would like a bigger car, like a Highlander, which has 3 rows of seats." At that time, I said, "Not really, I'm fine with our RAV4. Now, I feel he was right. When my family goes out in the RAV4, Yuko has to sit in the front seat because of the 2 car seats in the back. So when Nanami cries, there is nothing we can do. Because of that, I once told Rudy that I wish I could have a bigger car like a Highlander." Recently, we've been allowed to drive Sienna when my family goes out. It's roomy and very comfortable, so I'm so thankful about that. As Nanami grows older, she will cry less in the car, so I look forward to her growth. Anyway, today, I'd like to talk about my recent experience with our RAV4. One morning in March, when I went to my apartment parking lot to go to the church, I was shocked to discover that my RAV4 was missing. It was not in the space I had parked the day before. I searched my memory, but I was certain my RAV4 was gone. First, I thought it was stolen, so I called Rudy and Kenny to ask for their advice. They both said to call the police and report the stolen vehicle. So even though I was uncomfortable because of my English, I called the police on my cell phone and tried my best to explain the situation. The person asked, "What's the number of the vehicle?" I answered, "I don't know." He roughly replied, "What do you mean you don't know? Call back when you find the number." I found it difficult to deal with this situation by myself, so I called Rudy for help. So while waiting for Rudy, I went to the church in our Prius. I copied the pink slip of the RAV4 to get all the information I may need. After Rudy came to the church, we went to my apartment. Then, because the Alhambra Police Department was right across the street, we went there together to report the stolen vehicle. There, I was advised by the police officer that my car was not stolen, but towed. She gave me the phone number of the towing company. Well, I was very relieved that the RAV4 was found and not stolen. So I called the towing company, and Rudy and I went to go pick it up. They charged $220 for towing and overnight parking fees, but I was still happy because I was expecting worse scenario. They returned my RAV4. Then I found a paper on the windshield. Looking closer, I discovered it was a traffic ticket, a $58 fine for a parking violation. Well, okay, I would pay if I had to. So in my short, my car, while parking in the parking of my apartment, was reported as a parking violation and towed. For this, I paid $278. Now, this is very important, so I will repeat. My car, while parked in the parking lot of my apartment, was reported as a parking violation and towed, and I paid $278. Well, as I was regaining my sanity, my gladness began turning to anger. Why did I have to pay for parking in the parking lot of my apartment? Okay, here I'd like to explain why my car got ticket and towed. The day before my car was towed, the parking lot was undergoing a cleaning wash. For this cleaning, the parking lot was divided into 3 areas, and only one area would be cleaned each day. My parking space was being cleaned on Monday, so I had to move my cars to other spaces between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday was my day off, so I moved my cars to the street in the morning and went shopping around noon. When I returned from shopping, the lot was still being cleaned. So I parked in the guest parking in the other 2 areas of my apartment. I was supposed to move my car back to my parking space after 4 p.m., but because of my laziness, I neglected to do so. Later, I found that we are not allowed overnight parking in guest spaces without permission. So I didn't know that. That's why my car was reported and towed. After thinking about this event for some time, I discovered many things. First, I was not appreciative enough in being allowed to drive my RAV4. Do you remember I said that I had told Rudy I'd like a bigger car, like Highlander? Well, when Rudy first came to help me, he teased me saying, "Now you can buy a Highlander." I'm sure that he felt that I was not being thankful to be allowed to drive the RAV4. Rudy's words woke me up. Recently, Yuko told me about one of her friends, who is the mother of a student at Ryunosuke's preschool. She and her husband also stayed in the US as an international religious worker. However, unlike Yuko and me, her church was so poor that they were only able to drive very old cars. And they lived almost from hand to mouth. This reminds me of a story about the Bishop Kishida and Mother Kiyota. When they were in the San Francisco church, they only had wheat, steamed rice, and some Japanese pickle to eat, yet they were still very thankful to be able to eat them. Compared to them, I found myself so immature and selfish. So Gedatsu Kongo said, any individual sin, social tribulation, and world disturbance is caused by straying from the universal law. In other words, problems and troubles come when we forget to have absolute gratitude. I truly understand this is true. At first, I felt what happened to me because of my RAV4 was unfair, but later I found that was not so. Even though it was done unknowingly, I broke our parking rule, so my car had to be towed. Everything came from my lack of appreciation. It is a result of my egoistic mind and action. What goes around comes around. When something bad happens, people tend to think God gives punishment, but that's not correct. Our Gedatsu teachings show us how to look back into ourselves, adjust our attitude, and align our thinking with God or universal law. So lastly, I once learned that Bishop Kishida used to say that problems related to a car tend to come from a lack of appreciation. Therefore, I'd like to reflect on what I did and appreciate being allowed to drive the RAV4 instead of wishing for a Highlander. In other words, not to complain about what I don't have, but appreciate what I do have. I'd like to keep this in my mind as my life lesson. So I'd like to finish my sermon today by praying, honoring, and give blessing to the Spirit of who sacrificed their lives for the United States at this Memorial Day weekend. Thank you very much. God bless you. どうもありがとうございました。